Welcome to Monk's Temple. Settle into a position of true ease. Let the chair, the floor, the bed hold you completely. This is a time for permission, not posture. Gently allow your eyes to close, or simply lower your gaze. Feel the natural, effortless rhythm of your breath. For now, there is nowhere to go, nothing to fix. We are simply turning toward our present moment experience with a new quality of attention, one of open curiosity. I'd like to begin with a story. Early in my practice, I knew a concert cellist named Clara. A repetitive strain injury had created a persistent, fiery ache in her wrist and forearm. For her, this wasn't just pain, it was a threat to her identity, her music, her very soul. When she tried to meditate, she would sit poised as if on stage, trying to achieve a perfect, pain-free stillness. The ache became a wrong note in her symphony of silence, and she would mentally wrestle with it, trying to force it into harmony. Her meditation was another performance, and the pain was a critic she was desperate to silence. One day, her teacher, a nun with a background in music, placed a simple metronome on the cushion beside her. "Stop playing," she said. "Just listen. Set the metronome to the tempo of your pulse, and for this session, your only job is to listen to the tick. When you notice the pain, don't play a duet with it. Just note it, and return to listening to the tick." Exhausted from her internal struggle, Clara tried it. She focused on the steady, mechanical click. When the burn in her arm arose, instead of launching into her familiar concerto of resistance, she simply thought, aching, and returned to the tick. In the space between the ticks, she found a profound silence. The pain didn't vanish, but for the first time, it wasn't the lead performer. It was a faint background hum in the room where the metronome kept it steady, impartial time. She realized she had been trying to compose a masterpiece of peace, when all she needed to do was listen to the basic rhythm of the present moment. If this idea of stepping out of the struggle and into simple, rhythmic awareness resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Your subscription is a supportive gesture, a way to stay connected on this shared path of compassionate exploration. Now, let's find our own steady rhythm. Clara's breakthrough touches the core of the Buddha's psychological insight into dukkha. We often hear it translated as suffering, but a more precise translation for our modern context might be the stress of compulsive reacting. The Buddha taught that pain is inevitable, but the layer of tension, fear, and narrative we add to it, that is optional. That is the source of our true distress. The initial signal from the body is the first event. Our cascading thoughts. "This is terrible, it will ruin everything, I can't handle it," are the second, third, and fourth events we generate ourselves. Our practice is to kindly but firmly interrupt that chain reaction at the first event. We must therefore redefine our goal. You are not here to become a person who feels no pain. You are here to become a person whose peace is not shattered by pain. You are learning to experience sensation without an accompanying internal commentary track. That commentary is usually a repetitive, fear-based podcast: "This is my fault, this is permanent, this defines me." Mindfulness is the skill that allows you to reach over and press pause on that podcast. What remains when the commentary stops? Just the raw, unfolding sensory data of the moment. And that is something we can work with. To grasp this, picture your mind as a vast, clear night sky. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations are like stars, planets, and passing satellites. Pain is a particularly bright, flaring star. Our habitual reaction is to fixate on that one star, to stare at it until it blots out the entire cosmos. We forget the infinite dark space that holds it. Our practice is to soften our gaze, to reappreciate the profound spaciousness of the sky itself. The flaring star is still there, but it is now contextualized within a breathtaking, peaceful immensity. You are not the star. You are the sky, aware of the star. This shift from content to context is the essence of liberation in the Buddhist sense. This is active, intelligent non-engagement. It's what a wise nurse once told me about caring for patients in distress. You don't get in the bed and thrash around with them, she said. You pull up a chair, you sit solidly on the ground, and you offer a calm, steady presence from a place of stability. Your calm becomes an anchor they can, in time, feel and borrow. When we meditate with pain, we are pulling up a chair for our awareness to sit beside the distressed sensation. We are not merging with the thrashing. We are offering a stable, compassionate witness. Let's practice this foundational skill. Let awareness rest gently over your entire body. Scan from head to toe with a soft, accepting attention. Now, allow your focus to be drawn to any area of discomfort. Don't analyze. Just acknowledge its general location. Now, engage in a simple act of sensory inquiry. Ask, with neutral curiosity, what is the primary texture? Is it more like heat, or coolness? Is it pressure, or vibration? Is it sharpness, or a dull ache? Is it static, or does it pulse and change? You are not judging. You are collecting facts. In the lower back, there is a static, dull pressure. This act of naming creates critical distance. It changes my terrible pain into a phenomenon with observable properties. This is the heart of vipassana, insight, meditation, seeing the composite, fleeting nature, anicca, of our experience, which dismantles our solid, frightening stories about it. Stay with this for a few breaths. Then, consciously widen the lens. From that single point, let awareness expand to include your whole torso, then your entire body in space, then the room around you. Let the sensation become one small part of a much larger picture. It exists, but it is not the entire canvas. You are reclaiming the whole of your experience from the tyranny of a single detail. Let's continue. Having established that initial, gentle observation, we must now address the mind's most persistent habit, storytelling. The moment a sensation registers as pain, our psychological machinery doesn't just note it, it instantly, compulsively, begins to weave a narrative around it. This is where the simple, manageable reality of a physical signal is lost, and where our true suffering is born. We are going to learn how to spot these stories and, with great kindness, set them aside. I once worked with a man, a carpenter named David, who had chronic pain in his knees from decades of work. He described it not as a sensation, but as a prophecy. This ache, he'd say, it's the story of my body giving up. It's the first chapter of the end of my career, the end of my mobility. His pain was a physical fact, but his suffering was the entire, tragic novel he had written and was constantly editing in his mind. One afternoon, I gave him a seemingly silly task. I asked him to describe the pain, but he was forbidden to use any words about the past or future. He could only use words a video camera could capture in this exact moment. He was frustrated, but he tried. There is a tightness behind the kneecap, he started, haltingly. It feels warm. There's a faint, buzzing kind of throbbing that matches my heartbeat. He paused. But what about, he began, and I stopped him. Just the camera, David. Just what the camera sees and hears right now. He sat in silence for a minute. The camera sees a man sitting in a chair. It sees him breathing. It hears a clock ticking. In the knee, the camera would see heat. That's all. When he opened his eyes, they were wide. For 10 seconds, he said, it was just a warm knee. It wasn't a tragedy. It was just a thing. His novel had been closed, and in that space, he found relief not from the sensation, but from the story. This is the practical application of a profound Buddhist principle, right view, the first step on the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view means seeing things as they actually are, not through the distorted lens of our fears, hopes, and personal histories. David's right view of his knee was heat and tightness. Everything else. The career anxiety, the fear of aging, was a projection, a papanka, mental proliferation, that the Buddha identified as the source of our entanglement. Our work is to return, again and again, to the bare fact, to the video camera's neutral lens. To understand how powerful this is, imagine your stream of consciousness as a river. The water itself is pure sensation, cool, flowing, neutral. Your thoughts and stories are like leaves, twigs, and debris that fall into the river. Soon, you can't see the water for the clutter. You're caught up in identifying every leaf. This is the "I'm getting older" leaf. This is the "I'll never dance again" branch. And you feel you are drowning in the debris. Mindfulness is the practice of noticing you are not the leaves. You are not even the river. You are the bank of the river, the steady, observing ground from which you can watch both the clear water and the clutter float by. You can see a particularly scary-looking branch, a fearful thought, come into view, but from the bank, you don't have to jump in and grab it. You can let it pass. The bank is your right view. Let's practice this now. Bring your awareness back to the area of sensation you identified before. Feel its basic texture. Now, open your mental ears. What is the very first thought that arises about this sensation? Is it a label? This is my arthritis. Is it a prediction? This is going to get worse when I stand up. Is it a memory? This is just like last time, and it lasted for days. Don't judge the thought. Just identify its genre. Say to yourself softly, "Ah, that is a prediction," or "that is a memory." Naming the thought's category separates it from you. It is no longer an undeniable truth, it is a type of mental event. Now, after naming it, gently return your focus to the pure, video camera reality of the physical sensation. Warmth. Pressure. Pulsing. Anchor yourself in the sensory data. The thought will likely return. That's fine. Just repeat the process, "Ah, another prediction." And return to throbbing. You are training your mind to prioritize direct experience over mental commentary. You are strengthening the neural pathway that leads to the bank of the river, and weakening the one that compels you to jump into the turbulent water. This skill transforms your relationship with time, which is a primary architect of suffering. Pain exists in the present moment. Suffering exists in the imagined future and the regretted past. The Buddha taught to dwell in the presently arisen phenomenon, because that is the only place where you have any agency. The thought, "I can't bear this all night," is a story about a future you are not yet in. The question mindfulness asks is, can I be with this for this single breath? The answer is almost always yes. Then you deal with the next breath. You break the monolithic, terrifying timeline of suffering into manageable, breath-sized moments of sensation. I recall a woman who came to our retreat, an emergency room doctor named Anya. Her chronic back pain was compounded by sheer exhaustion. Her mind's story was always one of depletion. I have nothing left to give, this pain is draining the last of my reserves. I asked her to use her medical expertise in a new way. In the ER, I said, you triage. You treat the most critical issue first. Right now, the thought, I have nothing left, is a critical patient. The physical ache is another. Triage them. She later told me that this framing was revolutionary. She would mentally say, patient A, catastrophic thought about depletion. Status, stable but loud. Patient B, lumbar muscle spasm. Status, acute but localized. Treatment for both, breath, and observation. By turning her mind into a triage room, she stopped fusing with the patients. She became the capable, calm clinician overseeing the ward of her own experience. The story lost its emergency status. This is the practice of non-identification, a cornerstone of Buddhist wisdom. We are not our thoughts. We are not our pain. We are the conscious space that knows the thought and knows the pain. When you say, I am in pain, you are fusing with the sensation. When you say, there is pain present, you are standing on the bank, acknowledging the weather. This slight shift in phrasing, practiced internally, is not semantic nitpicking. It is a psychological repositioning of immense power. It is the difference between being a prisoner in a room and being the architect who knows the room has a door. So, as you go about your day, begin to listen for your pain stories. Notice the genre. Is it a horror story? A tragedy? A predictable, boring rerun? Just label it. Ah, the tragedy genre is playing. This simple act of recognition drains the story of its believability and its power to hijack your peace. You are no longer the main character trapped in the plot. You are the reader who can, at any time, close the book and return to the palpable, present moment reality of your breath, your body, and the world around you. The sensation may remain, but the saga ends. Let's move deeper. We've practiced observing the raw sensation and disentangling from the stories about it. Now, we encounter the most powerful force that amplifies our suffering, resistance. This isn't just thought, it's a full-bodied, visceral reaction of no. It is the clenching of the jaw, the tightening of the shoulders, the hardening of the heart against the experience. In this part, we will learn the counterintuitive art of softening, not to surrender to the pain, but to surrender our war with it. Years ago, I met a former dancer named Alara. A hip injury had ended her career, leaving not just physical scar tissue but a deep, emotional knot of grief and anger. When the old ache flared, her entire being would brace. She described it as going into the fortress. Her muscles would lock, her breath would shallow, and her mind would become a guarded citadel, repelling the invader. One day, a physiotherapist working with her said something unexpected: the scar tissue isn't your enemy. It's a bridge your body built, poorly, across a wound. Your bracing is you trying to break the bridge. What if, instead, you taught the body how to build a better one? This meant she had to consciously, deliberately, soften into the areas of bracing. To breathe into the clenched hip. It felt terrifying, like lowering the drawbridge to the enemy. But she tried. Lying on the floor, she would place a hand on her hip, and with each exhale, she would mentally whisper, soft. Not, go away, but, soft. Over weeks, a miracle occurred. The pain didn't vanish, but its quality changed. The sharp, defensive agony became a softer, more manageable ache. The real change was in her mind. The fortress had become an open field. She was no longer at war. Ilara's journey mirrors a central tenet in Buddhist psychology, that aversion, dosa, is one of the primary roots of suffering. The Buddha taught that our hatred for unpleasant feeling is like adding fuel to a fire. The pain is the initial spark, but our rage, our tightening, our no, that is the gasoline. Our practice is to stop carrying the gasoline. We learn to sit with the spark, to understand its nature, and in doing so, we let it burn out on its own, without consuming our entire house. To grasp this, imagine your body and mind as a vast, intricate ecosystem, a forest. Pain is a lightning strike. It's sudden, hot, and destructive in a localized way. Our resistance is not the rain that helps put the fire out. It is the high wind we ourselves generate, fanning the flames, spreading the blaze from one tree to the next until the whole forest is engulfed. The mindful response is to become the calm, steady rain. The rain doesn't fight the fire. It simply falls with persistence, cooling and saturating the environment, containing the burn, allowing new growth to eventually emerge from the charred ground. Softening is that rain. Each conscious breath is a drop, cooling the heat of our resistance. Let's cultivate this rain now. Bring your attention once more to the area of discomfort. Notice not just the primary sensation, but the body's reaction around it. Is the surrounding muscle clenched in a protective grip? Is your jaw tight? Your forehead furrowed? Observe this bracing without judgment. It's an ancient, intelligent instinct to protect. Now, on your next gentle inhale, imagine drawing breath not just into your lungs, but directly into that surrounding area of tension. Imagine the breath as a soothing, liquid light. As you exhale, imagine that clenched tissue softening, melting, and releasing its grip by just 1%. You are not forcing it to let go. You are inviting it. Use a mental syllable like soft, ease, or open. On the exhale. The goal is not to achieve total relaxation, but to initiate a new relationship, one of dialogue instead of dictation. Now, extend this practice to your emotional reaction. What is the emotion clinging to this pain? Is it frustration? Fear? Sadness? Locate where you feel that emotion in your body, often it's in the chest, the throat, the gut. Offer the same practice to this emotional tightness. Breathe into the heart center, and on the exhale, offer the word allow. Or peace. You are not approving of the pain. You are ceasing the internal conflict. You are lowering the wind so the forest fire can settle. This is the essence of karuna, or compassion, applied to oneself. True compassion isn't a fluffy feeling, it's an active, intelligent response to suffering. It's the rain choosing to fall on the burning part of the forest. When we breathe into tension with the intention of softening, we are administering compassion at a cellular level. We are sending a message of safety to a system that is on high alert. The Buddha's path is one of removing causes of suffering. Self-generated resistance is a primary cause we can directly address. I remember a veteran who came to the temple, a man named Marcus, who carried shrapnel in his leg and a corresponding shrapnel in his psyche, a hardened, guarded anger. He said his pain felt like a red alert siren that never stopped. Meditation was impossible, it just amplified the siren. I asked him not to meditate on his leg, or even on his breath. I asked him to meditate on the space between the siren sounds. Listen for the silence after the ring fades, I said. That's your target. He spent weeks just doing that, listening for the micro-silence. In hunting for those gaps, he inadvertently stopped feeding the siren with his furious attention. The alarm didn't stop, but he discovered the quiet field in which the alarm was ringing. His resistance had been the attempt to smash the siren. His softening was the discovery of the boundless field that could contain its noise. This practice reveals a critical insight: much of what we call the pain is actually our resistance to it. The raw signal is often clean, sharp, and momentary. It is our sustained clenching against it that creates the enduring, dull, oppressive background ache. By softening the resistance, we peel back a layer of suffering to encounter the simpler sensation beneath. We move from the dense, painful novel back to the simple, stark poem of direct experience. Therefore, make this softening practice a habit. Before you rise from bed, take 3 breaths to soften around any stiffness. Before you react to a flare-up with frustration, take 1 breath to soften your jaw and belly. You are not giving in to pain. You are reclaiming your autonomy from the tyrannical grip of resistance. You are choosing to be the rain, not the wind. You are choosing to be the field, not just the siren. With every conscious softening, you are building a new, more resilient bridge across old wounds, just as Alara learned to do. You are architecting peace within your own being. Let's continue our exploration. We've softened the resistance. Now, we encounter another profound dimension, the relationship between physical sensation and the emotional heart. Pain is rarely a purely physical event. It resonates in the chambers of our emotions, often awakening old echoes of fear, grief, or loneliness. In this part, we will learn to hold both the physical signal and the emotional echo with wise, spacious awareness, preventing one from amplifying the other into a cascade of suffering. I once knew a gardener named Sam. He had a chronic pain in his hands, an arthritis that twisted his skilled fingers. The physical sensation was one thing, a stiff, burning ache. But for Sam, that ache was a key that unlocked a deep vault of sorrow. It reminded him of his father, who had the same condition, a man who became bitter and withdrawn. Sam's pain was inseparable from a haunting fear: am I becoming him? His meditation would quickly drown in this emotional undertow, the physical burn fueling a fire of grief, the grief tensing his body and worsening the burn, a perfect, painful feedback loop. His breakthrough came unexpectedly. He was in his garden, unable to grip his trowel. Frustrated and sad, he just sat on the earth. He began to feel the damp soil, cool and granular, with his aching hands. He focused on that contrasting sensation, the hot, tight ache inside and the cool, grainy softness outside. He stayed there, simply holding both in his awareness, the inner weather and the outer touch. In that moment, the link between the ache and the story of his father snapped. They were separated. The pain was just a physical phenomenon in his hand. The grief was a heartfelt, but separate, emotional phenomenon in his chest. They could coexist without having to define each other. He could tend to the grief with compassion, without blaming the pain. He could feel the pain without it meaning he was destined for his father's fate. Sam's experience illuminates a crucial Buddhist concept, Vedana, or feeling tone. The Buddha taught that every sensory contact has an immediate, affective tone. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. The painful sensation is an unpleasant feeling tone. The subsequent sadness, fear, or anger are secondary mental formations, sankharas, that arise based on that feeling tone. Our suffering multiplies when we confuse the primary, physical Vedana with the secondary, emotional storm. We think they are one solid mass, my painful, terrible, heartbreaking condition. Mindfulness allows us to deconstruct the mass. There is an unpleasant sensation in the hand. And there is sadness in the heart. Seeing them as separate, linked events gives you a point of intervention. You can address each with its own appropriate medicine. To visualize this, picture a still pond. The pain is a pebble dropped into its center. The unpleasant Vedana is the first set of ripples, clean, concentric waves emanating from the point of impact. Your emotions are like leaves, twigs, and debris already floating on the pond's surface. When the ripples reach them, they jostle and shake them violently. It feels like one chaotic event, the pebble is causing the leaves to dance. But they are distinct. The pebble creates ripples. The ripples disturb the leaves. Your work is to see the clarity of the ripples separate from the agitation of the leaves. You can observe the ripples, the pure sensation, without getting caught in the frantic dance of the leaves, the emotions. Let's practice this discernment. Return your attention to the primary physical discomfort. Note its basic characteristics again: heat, pressure, throbbing. Acknowledge its feeling tone: it is unpleasant. Simply label it, unpleasant. Now, turn your attention inward to your emotional landscape. What has gathered around this physical event? Scan your heart area, your throat, your gut. Is there an emotional quality present? Name it. Sadness is here. Anxiety is present. There is frustration. Now, hold a dual awareness. On one side of your inner field, place the physical sensation, the pebble's ripple. On the other side, place the emotional feeling, the dancing leaf. In your mind's eye, create space between them. They are in the same pond of your awareness, but they are not the same thing. Breathe into the physical sensation with acceptance: this sensation is like this. Then, breathe into the emotional feeling with compassion: this feeling is welcome. You are becoming the entire pond, capable of holding both the ripple and the leaf without confusion. This practice is an application of upekkha, or equanimity, the balanced heart. Equanimity is not cold detachment. It is the spacious, stable ground that allows you to care deeply without being overwhelmed, to feel fully without being toppled. It is the pond that contains both ripple and leaf without becoming either. By practicing this separation, you prevent the emotional reaction from becoming a second source of physical tension, which would, in turn, worsen the original pain. You break the feedback loop. I recall a therapist who worked with children, named Lena, who had chronic migraines. She noticed her headaches often arrived with a specific emotional guest, a sense of overwhelming responsibility, of too much to carry. She started a practice. At the very first hint of a migraine aura, she would sit and say 2 sentences aloud. To the physical precursor, the visual disturbance, the tightness in her neck, she would say, "This is a neurological event." To the rising wave of anxious responsibility in her chest, she would say, "This is an emotional habit." Naming them as separate processes gave her a powerful cognitive leverage. The headache often still came, but the accompanying tsunami of debilitating anxiety. The feeling that the pain meant she was failing at everything, lost its power. She could weather the neurological storm without also drowning in the emotional flood. This skill of differentiation is a superpower. It moves you from a state of being overwhelmed by your experience to a state of skillfully managing the components of your experience. You become the conductor of your own orchestra, hearing the distinct sections, the strings of physical sensation, the brass of emotion, and ensuring one doesn't drown out the other. You create harmony, or at least, conscious coexistence. So, in your daily life, begin to practice this simple label: physical event, emotional event. When a back spasm arrives with a spike of job-related anxiety, pause. Feel the spasm, physical event, sensation of tightening. Feel the anxiety, emotional event, sensation of fear in the chest. This tiny pause of categorization is an island of sanity in the storm. It grants you choice. You can choose to gently stretch the physical event. You can choose to offer a kind word to the emotional event. But you are no longer a single, helpless target. You are a wise and caring responder to multiple, manageable phenomena. You are tending your garden, knowing that the ache in the soil is one thing, and the sorrow in your heart is another, and both deserve your attentive, separate care. Let's move into a transformative territory, the power of concentration. When the direct investigation of pain feels too intense, or when the emotional echoes are too loud, we need a sanctuary. We need a place of positive focus so compelling, so inherently peaceful, that it naturally gathers our scattered awareness and offers respite. This isn't about running away, it's about building a home base of calm from which we can later venture out to meet our challenges with renewed strength. This is the cultivation of samadhi, steadied, collected mind. I want to share a story about a friend, a woodworker named Ben. He lived with a persistent, ringing tinnitus and nerve pain in his spine, a constant, high-pitched static over a deep, dull roar. Trying to be with these sensations directly often led him to a brink of despair. His mind felt like a radio pinned between 2 unbearable stations. Then, he took up woodturning, shaping bowls on a lathe. He found that the intense focus required. Watching the wood grain blur into a single, flowing ribbon, feeling the precise pressure of the chisel, listening for the specific sound of a perfect cut, consumed his attention completely. For those hours at the lathe, the tinnitus and the ache didn't disappear, but they receded to the very edge of his perception. They became faint background noise in the cathedral of his focus. He wasn't suppressing them, he was simply giving his mind a more vivid, engaging, and wholesome place to reside. The concentration required to make something beautiful became his sanctuary. He would leave the lathe not with the pain gone, but with his inner resources replenished, having remembered that his awareness could choose its dwelling place. Ben's discovery mirrors a foundational teaching of the Buddha. The path is not one of grim endurance, but of developing skillful mental states. Samadhi, or concentration, is one of the three essential trainings, alongside wisdom and ethics. It is the development of a mind that is unified, buoyant, and malleable. A scattered mind is at the mercy of every sensation. A collected mind has a home. It can observe pain from a place of inner abundance, rather than from a state of desperate poverty. This collected mind is built by repeatedly placing our attention on a single, wholesome object. Think of it this way. Your awareness is like a beam of light from a flashlight. When your mind is scattered, that beam darts frantically around a dark room, illuminating one frightening shape after another, a lump of pain, a shadow of fear, a monstrous thought. Concentration is the act of steadily holding that beam of light on one, chosen, beautiful object, a vase of flowers on a table. The rest of the room doesn't vanish. The scary shapes are still there in the periphery. But they are no longer the center of your reality. The center is the flower, its petals, its color, its delicate form. By training the beam to stay, you train your mind to dwell in beauty and stability. You build a luminous refuge in the very midst of the dark. Let's build that refuge now. We will use the breath, but with a specific, concentrated quality. Find a comfortable seat. Let your eyes close. Feel the natural breath at the very tip of your nostrils. Notice the subtle, cool sensation of the air as it enters. Notice the subtle, warmer sensation as it exits. Your entire universe, for now, is this 1 square centimeter of sensation, the touch of breath at the nostrils. Now, commit to it. With each in-breath, know, cool. With each out-breath, know, warm. Your mind will wander. It will be pulled to an ache, a thought, a sound. The moment you realize it has wandered, acknowledge it softly, wandering, and immediately, gently, return the beam of your attention to the cool and the warm at the nostrils. Do this not with frustration, but with the patience of a master jeweler returning to a precious gem they are polishing. Each return is a rep, strengthening the muscle of your attention. As you settle, you might find the breath becoming finer, the sensations more subtle. That's fine. Stay with the most obvious tactile sign of the breath you can find. The goal is not to achieve a trance, but to cultivate a steady, gentle, unwavering attention. You are building your flashlight beam into a lighthouse beam, powerful, steady, and capable of piercing through the fog of discomfort. In the safe harbor of this collected mind, the storms of the body and emotions simply have less destructive power. This practice of samadhi is supported by another Buddhist principle, the cultivation of piti and sukha, joy and happiness born of seclusion from the 5 senses and unwholesome states. By secluding your mind in the serene activity of following the breath, you are allowing a natural, serene joy to bubble up. It might start as simple relief from mental chatter. It might grow into a sense of physical lightness or mental ease. This isn't an escape, it's a homecoming to your mind's innate capacity for peace. You are giving your nervous system a direct, experiential alternative to the alarm signal of pain. I remember a woman named Clara, a mathematician who lived with fibromyalgia. Her world was a map of unpredictable pain points. She told me that trying to accept a flare-up felt impossible. I asked her to try something different, to use her love of numbers. During a flare, she would not focus on the pain. Instead, She would start mentally calculating something complex but beautiful, like the Fibonacci sequence, or visualizing a Mandelbrot set expanding. She would get lost in the elegance of the patterns. "It's like the pain is a chaotic, ugly number set," she said. "And I choose to spend my time in the beautiful, ordered one. They can't both occupy the forefront of my processor at the same time." Her concentration on mathematical beauty became her sanctuary, her samadhi. It didn't fix her nerves, but it protected her spirit. It gave her a world she could always retreat to, a world governed by logic and grace, not by random fire. Therefore, remember you have this option. When meeting pain with open awareness feels like too much, you are not failing. You are being instructed to change tactics. Turn to concentration. Your object can be the breath, a meaningful word repeated silently, mantra, the visualization of light, or even a physical object like a smooth stone held in your hand. Dedicate a period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to building this single-pointed focus. You are constructing an inner fortification made not of walls against pain, but of the cohesive, luminous material of your own collected attention. From this fortified place of calm, you can look out upon your experience with clarity and compassion, because you are no longer lost in the battlefield. You are observing it from a place of unshakable peace. Now we come to a deep and subtle truth, one that can redefine your entire experience, the relationship between attention and identity. We've practiced observing sensation, softening resistance, differentiating from emotion, and building concentration. Underlying all of this is a fundamental question: who, or what, is aware? Our habitual answer, "I am aware," carries a hidden, painful assumption, that there is a small, separate me sitting inside, being assaulted by this thing called my pain. This assumption is the final fortress of suffering. We will now explore the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or not self, not as a philosophical concept, but as a direct, liberating experience. Years ago, I met a sculptor named Aisha. She had a degenerative condition that caused relentless pain in her joints, especially her hands, the very tools of her art. She described her experience as a constant battle between Aisha the artist and Aisha the patient. The pain felt like an invader occupying her home, stealing her identity. One still afternoon in her studio, surrounded by half-formed figures in clay, she was in too much agony to work. In a moment of surrender, she simply gazed at her hands resting on the work table. Instead of thinking, "My hands hurt," she began a simple litany of observation, silently narrating to the hands as if they were separate entities she was meeting for the first time. There is trembling. There is swelling. There is heat. There is the memory of movement. As she did this, a strange shift occurred. The sense of my pain, of a personal tragedy happening to Aisha, began to dissolve. What remained was a profound, almost impersonal, curiosity. She was not a victim in her hands, she was awareness, witnessing a fascinating and tragic process of change occurring in these biological forms called hands. The scream of "my pain" quieted into the hum of "pain is present." In that space, she felt a grief that was clean, not sticky with self-pity, and a peace that was vast enough to hold that grief. She later told me, "It was the day I stopped being a patient sculpting, and started being awareness, within which a body with sensations and a person making art were both happening." Aisha's insight touches the heart of the Buddha's most radical teaching. He did not say there is no experience. He said there is no permanent, unchanging, independent self to be found within the flow of experience. What we call I is a constellation of ever-changing processes: body, rupa, sensations, vedana, perceptions, sana, mental formations, sankhara, and consciousness, vijnana. Pain is a particularly intense constellation within that flow. When we say, I am in pain, we are taking this temporary, painful constellation and building a permanent, solid identity around it, the painful self. Anatta is the practice of de-identifying. It is looking closely at the pain and asking, where, exactly, is the me in this? Is the me in the heat? Is the me in the throbbing? Is the me in the thought about it? You find only the elements themselves, arising and passing. The one who is aware of all this. That awareness itself is clear, boundless, and untouched by what it knows. To understand this, try a new metaphor. Imagine you are the screen in a movie theater. On the screen, a dramatic, painful scene is playing: a storm, a battle, a loss. The images are vivid, the sound is loud. Our normal state is to forget we are the screen. We identify completely with the character on the screen, feeling attacked by the storm, terrified in the battle. We are lost in the movie of my painful life. Mindfulness is the process of remembering you are the screen. The screen allows the movie to play, the storm, the fire, the aching close-up. But the screen itself is not stormy, not burnt, not damaged. It remains white, clear, and receptive, regardless of the drama projected upon it. The practice of anatta is the ultimate remembrance: I am not the content of the experience. I am the aware space in which the experience is known. The pain is a dramatic scene. You are the screen. Let's experiment with this directly. Sit comfortably. Let awareness rest broadly. When you locate a sensation of discomfort, approach it with this new inquiry. Ask silently, what is aware of this? Don't answer with a thought. Feel into the question. Feel the sensation itself, the pressure, the heat. Now, feel back from that sensation to the knowing of it. Is the knower located in the same place as the sensation? Or is the knowing capacity more spacious, more background, like the sky knowing a cloud? Rest in that sense of being the knowing space, not the known object. Now, try a subtle shift in language in your mind. Instead of my back aches, experiment with aching is happening. Instead of I feel throbbing, try throbbing is being felt. This isn't word games. It's a linguistic tool to pry identity away from sensation. Notice what happens in your body and mind when you use the impersonal phrasing. There's often a slight release, a sigh in the psyche, as the burden of ownership is set down. This practice aligns with the deepest aim of Buddhist meditation, liberation through wisdom, panna. The wisdom of anatta dissolves the inner core of the suffering, which is the sense of a vulnerable self that needs to be protected from experience. When you stop claiming the pain as mine, you remove it from the center of your personal universe. It becomes a passing weather pattern in the vast sky of awareness. This doesn't numb you. It allows you to respond to the pain with greater clarity and compassion, because your response is no longer clogged with the panic of self-preservation. I recall a veteran, Thomas, who carried both shrapnel and severe PTSD. A pain flare was never just pain, it was a trigger that catapulted Thomas back into a past hell. We worked with a simple phrase. When a flashback would begin to coil around a physical ache, he would say, internally, "This is an echo. The one hearing the echo is here, now." He focused on the one hearing, the present moment awareness. He said it felt like stepping out of a haunted corridor and into a quiet observation booth. He could see the echo playing in the corridor, feel its terrible vibrations, but he was no longer in the corridor. He was in the safe, observant space. The pain and the memory didn't disappear, but their power to define him was broken. He was no longer Thomas, the victim of that past moment. He was awareness, knowing that a past memory was arising. His identity was no longer fused to the trauma. This is the ultimate refuge, not a concentration on an object, but a relaxing back into the subjective space of awareness itself. It is the home that was never built and can never be damaged. Your practice now is to notice, throughout the day, when you are claiming an experience as my problem, my pain, my disaster. Experiment with dropping the my. Just let it be a problem, a pain, a difficult situation arising in the field of your awareness. Feel the difference. It is the difference between being a tiny boat tossed in a hurricane, and being the ocean, capable of holding the hurricane within its immense depth. The hurricane is real, but it cannot harm the ocean. The pain is real, but it cannot harm the aware space that you truly are. This brings us to our final contemplation, which is not an end, but a beginning. We have traveled from the first shock of resistance to the spacious peace of awareness. We have explored the terrain of sensation, story, emotion, and identity. Now, we turn to the quality that makes this entire journey not just a psychological strategy, but a sacred path: compassion. Specifically, self-compassion. This is the warm, beating heart at the center of all Buddhist wisdom. Without it, mindfulness can become a cold, clinical observation. With it, mindfulness becomes a healing embrace. We will learn how to meet our pain not as a problem to be solved, but as a part of our human experience worthy of our own kindness. Let me share one last, personal story. In my early years of monastic training, I developed a persistent, debilitating sinus infection. The pressure and throbbing in my head were relentless. I was frustrated. Here I was, trying to cultivate a peaceful mind, and my own body felt like a traitor, creating constant, distracting noise. I tried to observe it with perfect equanimity, but underneath was a simmering anger at my own flesh. One night, in sheer exhaustion, I gave up. I stopped trying to be a good monk observing pain. I just lay there, feeling utterly defeated and sorry for myself. And in that moment of surrender, a strange thing happened. A memory arose, unbidden, of my grandmother rubbing menthol balm on my chest when I was a child with a bad cold. Her hands were warm and rough, and her presence was pure, wordless care. Lying there alone, I instinctively placed my own palm over my throbbing forehead. I held my own head with the same gentle pressure I remembered. I didn't try to change the pain. I simply offered it the warmth of my own hand and the unspoken message, "This is hard. I am here with you." The tears that came were not of self-pity, but of a long-awaited homecoming. The split between me and the painful body healed in that touch. I was not a mind hostile to a body. I was one whole being, holding itself with compassion. The pain didn't vanish, but the loneliness within it did. That experience taught me more about the Buddhist teaching on metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, than any scripture. Compassion is not something you extend only outward. Its most radical application is inward. It is the permission to be fragile, to be in pain, to be imperfect, and to meet that fragile, pained, imperfect part with the same kindness you would offer a crying child. The Buddha's path is one of releasing suffering, and the greatest suffering we often carry is the belief that we should not be suffering, that our pain is a personal failure. Self-compassion releases that second arrow with finality. To embody this, consider a new metaphor. Imagine your awareness as a wise, kind elder sitting by a fireplace. The pain is a young child who has come in from a storm, cold, wet, and crying. The old you might have scolded the child, "Stop crying. You shouldn't have gone out. You're making a mess." This is our aversion, our resistance. The mindful you might simply observe the child dispassionately. The child is wet. The child is crying. But the compassionate you, the one we cultivate now, does something else. The elder opens their arms. They gather the shivering child into their lap. They wrap a warm blanket around them. They don't need the child to stop crying immediately. They simply hold them, providing safety and warmth until the storm passes. Your pain is that child. Your compassionate awareness is the elder. You are not the storm. You are the sanctuary. Let's practice this integration of mindfulness and compassion. Settle. Find the sensation. Observe it with clarity, heat, pressure, vibration. Now, introduce the element of care. Place a hand gently on the area, or if that's not possible, imagine a beam of warm, golden light emanating from your heart and surrounding the sensation. With each inhale, imagine drawing compassion into your heart. With each exhale, imagine sending that compassion directly to the site of discomfort. You might use a simple phrase, synchronized with your breath. On the inhale, I am here. On the exhale, with kindness. Or use any phrase that feels true, this belongs. You are allowed. I care for this. Feel the difference between observing the pain and embracing it with care. The first is accurate. The second is healing. You are no longer just a witness to the event, you are an active participant in your own healing, not by fixing, but by loving. This practice heals the primal fracture that pain creates, the sense of alienation from our own bodies. This compassionate embrace is the essence of what the Buddha taught as the Brahmaviharas, the divine abidings. You are cultivating a heart that can hold all things with metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. A heart that meets pain not with fear, but with a fearless, welcoming compassion. This is the ultimate safety. You become a safe container for your own experience. I remember a final story from a man named Leo, a writer who had lived with pain for decades. He said that for years, his meditation was a war room where he strategized against his pain. Then he began this practice of compassionate attention. He described the change like this: I used to sit in the war room, staring at red maps of my body, planning campaigns. Now, I sit in the kitchen. The pain is like a neighbor who sometimes comes to visit, unannounced. He's not pleasant. He's often gruff and brings a chill with him. But instead of barricading the door, I've learned to let him in. I offer him a chair by the fire. I don't have to like him, but I don't have to fight him either. We sit together. Sometimes he talks for a long time. Sometimes he just sits quietly, and then leaves. My house is no longer a fortress. It's a place with a fire always burning, and a chair always available. I am at peace because I am no longer at war. This is the gift. You are learning to keep a fire burning in the hearth of your own heart, and to keep a chair available for any guest, even the unwelcome one named pain. You are building a home in your own awareness that no sensation can destroy. So as we conclude, carry this with you. You have a toolkit, but more importantly, you have a new orientation, one of friendly, compassionate curiosity toward your own lived experience. When pain arises, you can now 1. Pause and breathe. Interrupt the automatic reaction. 2. Observe with neutrality. Note the sensory facts: heat, pressure, throbbing. 3. Check the story. Gently set aside the catastrophic predictions and old narratives. 4. Feel the emotion. Locate and name the fear, sadness, or frustration separately. 5. Soften resistance. Breathe into the clenched areas, inviting release. 6. Anchor in concentration. If overwhelmed, return to a single point of focus like the breath. 7. Rest in awareness. Remember you are the space knowing the experience, not the experience itself. 8. Offer compassion. Meet the entire constellation with kindness, a warm hand, a gentle phrase. You are not trying to create a life without pain. You are cultivating a heart and mind that cannot be shattered by it. You are moving from a model of cure to a model of wholeness. In the light of compassionate awareness, pain transforms. It ceases to be a meaningless torment and can even become a teacher of depth, resilience, and profound self-kindness. The Buddha's final words were, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." Your pain is a conditioned thing. It is impermanent. It changes, it shifts, it has a beginning and an end. The aware, compassionate space that knows it, that is your true nature. Strive on with diligence in remembering that. Tend the fire. Keep the chair ready. Live your life from that place of open-handed welcome. Thank you for walking this path with me here at Monk's Temple. May you be gentle with yourself. May you hold your moments of struggle with kindness. May you know the peace that exists not in the absence of difficulty, but in the very heart of your compassionate response to it. Go in peace.